topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello, and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaxan. I'm a core alignment coach, an emotional wisdom training specialist, and a diversity educator. I have had the great fortune of living in different places and meeting people from all kinds of backgrounds, and I always learn from every conversation when I'm being exposed to something new, a different frame of reference, a different way of thinking. And I just find it very stimulating and expanding my consciousness and awareness. I have developed some programs for other people who are interested in kind of building inclusive consciousness, recognizing bias patterns we may be stuck in and how to step out of them and how to create new pathways and how to communicate across differences. If you're interested in any of my coaching or training programs, you can go to my website right there. It's listed, knowwhatyouvantcoaching.wordpress.com. Today, I have a guest who is returning. I'm so grateful. This is the second time I'll have had Diana Almendariz as a guest on my show. And last time it was just radio. Today, we are also, for those of you who are on the radio, we also have TV now. And so Diana will be here and she has some photos she'll share. So if you can go back and watch and come find the photos. If you go to Talk 4 TV later or the radio station W4CY, you can find how to find the video recordings also. So Diana is a cultural practitioner and from her homeland, Maidu homeland from the Sacramento Delta and Wintun homeland from the Davis region, the area that's now called Davis. We're very fortunate to have someone who has such depth of knowledge and experience and who really enjoys educating people. There are a couple of different opportunities we'll talk to her about towards the end of class offerings when at UC Davis, when at Cache Creek Conservancy. Anyway, it's just amazing opportunities to learn more about how we can protect the land and take care of the earth, which we are all completely dependent on. And we need to recognize how dependent we are on people who are more in touch with that than a lot of us mainstream people are. So, Diana, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to hear. In today's topic, I love the title, Post-Fire, a call to the return of native indigenous plants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just not enough to say that I'm going to start burning like the native people told us to, It's not like that. There's been a lot of change of land and habitat that has caused a fire. I mean, a out of control fire storm, so it's climate change, things that were unpredictable, but we could, still work with the planet, the earth. We need to focus on the earth. And that's why I'm saying a call to, native plants again. And I don't just mean here, I mean in other places that people lived. They had relationships all over the world with their plants, and so certain local areas that are void of native plants need to Try to, recreate that, find ways. Then I know the ancestors of that land are probably still there doing what I'm doing here, reaching out to those and trying to get to their soul, talk to them on how we're connected to the earth, or, in our physical nature of who we are is earth beings. Got to remind people of that. So that's kind of like where my main message is. We're here. We're here and we're alive. Recognize that. We don't need to go live on Mars anywhere. If you think that makes you happy, then you're going to have to deal with a lot more than you think.
Mm.
Yeah. So things like that kind of bother me. And, it's things like you are, when people make statements and say we're a country of immigrants, that bothers me because no, our people, we're still here. I mean, look at me. I'm like 75% Native American, and I'm half California Indian. And of that half California Indian, I'm Maidu and Wintun, and which is the homeland that I live and work in. I've lived in Sacramento pretty much most of my life. It was my main base. If I moved away, I always came back, Sacramento, but I always stayed within California. If you're Native American, you have a connection with the land. Native, and you have a connection to the land that a lot of people don't see.
Mm.
Because we have ceremonial ceremonies still going on, and the ceremonies require lodges, require ceremonial houses, like our churches. There's one park in California called Chaucy, and it has a roundhouse in it. And and it's a park, so people could see what our lodge is. But I don't think it gets the notion across that that's our religious lodge. And I don't think that notion is across. It's like a game of, it's all about nature, but it's also about our beliefs of, who we are, which is where we need to be, is nature, not about nature, but we are nature. And, we're part of the inhabitants here. And the message gets kind of missing in that, being a part of the park.
I think that's so true that I grew up mostly here, mostly in America, and in public school. And there was a great separation from us and nature. And it was only after becoming an adult and actually living in a very remote area that was highly forested and surrounded by vegetation, and had the chance to grow my own food in a way. I mean, my father taught me to garden when I was growing up, but to make it my main part of my food was just a huge, almost like a reorientation.
Yeah.
So I think if I hadn't had the experience, that just what really woke me. I just love what you said. We are a part of nature, and it's just everything. You can just enjoy it. Everything's so much better when when we recognize it and when we feel it.
Yeah, when you feel it, and that was the key word. You're breathing it, you're out in it, you're feeling it, your skin feels it. There's the big difference between that and viewing it. Like you're living in a house with big windows. Well, sure, you're seeing it, but you're not in it. You're not included in it still. You may see it, but you're sheltering away from it, and that's what gets missing. And it's nice to be in it.
Yeah. And you are very much in it. I mean, there's something about having your hands in the soil. And I know you go to several schools and you teach students how to plant and what to plant. And I just so value that. I'm so grateful for that. And I think it's just wonderful for the students to have that, to learn, as a skill and a possibility, not just a one-time event, but look what can expand your life into.
Yeah. And and it's good. And I just want to be clear that the plants that we're talking about are native plants, not agricultural plants, which can come from anywhere, and it's not like our people didn't dislike agricultural plants. Of course, we appreciated food bearing plants, especially peaches. My family loved to tend peach farms.
Hmm.
That seemed to be their favorite. And to this day, I love peach farms. I mean, I would go to the ranch and go and just walk miles and miles, just all around the peach farm. There were bobcats, there were squirrels and raccoons. I had a good time doing that, and peaches, that smell in the air. That was a part of it. Make a note, everybody, that peaches aren't native to California, but they sure did travel here on their own. There were peach trees that they were well known before they started planting farms of them.
And you mentioned the other day, I know we're going to talk about a plant that you have a special relationship. I know you have a relationship with several different native indigenous plants. And you also mentioned that, of course, we've lost some, right, because of the history of almost complete genocide, and then also people who were surviving that being told to stop their practices, which included knowing plants and knowing plant medicine and practicing it. However, it was retained to some degree, but there are still some lost.
Yeah. It's not complete. I don't know about every plant.
Right.
I know about the important ones that, like Grandma thought, if it was an important plant for medicine, I know about that. And when it comes to medicine, it was basic medicine that we needed, because we're pretty healthy people, pretty much, but basic medicine. And I know when she got to know my spirit and who I am, climbing trees, walking, tripping, doing all kinds of goofy things. I always had cuts, scratches, scrapes. And so she goes, you need to know a plant. You need to know this one plant needs to be in your life, and you need to know where it grows. And it ended up being a milkweed, which would, be like a Band-Aid to my my scratches and scrapes and everything. So it's a plant that I make sure I grow on my balcony where I live. I keep these plants with me. I grow them. And, and so to me, they fill their pot. You know what I mean? They fill the pot. It gets root brown. So the best thing for me to do is to trim it out, get it growing into a bigger space. And then the extra that I have, my intent is to replant them somewhere, and so I'm at a point where I got a lot of plants and a lot to be able to grow around. And I see all those other sites as, places to, like a nursery, a living nursery that we could gather from and fill those areas. It's not like it's an idea I came up with. It's an idea that I've learned with, I've learned from. And one of the things that I learned from is, plants in general, but our spiritual mountain here, it's the creation of mountain, which is, they call it Sutter Buttes, but the Wintun name is Onole. It's like in the center of the Northern California. And it was a spot that the first man set foot on, the turtle island, where the turtle landed on the piece of land. It was Sutter Buttes. It was the Onole. And this place to me is like, to visit it now is you're visiting a collection of seeds. It's a reserve of seeds, it's a collection that's still there and holds them. And they grow on the top parts of the mountain. It's hard to get to, but they're there still. They're all over. It's really remarkable to go there and see all these flowers that probably once existed. I know they once existed all over California, but are now kind of relegated into this tiny little patch that's up top of the hills in the mountains there in Onole.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it's pretty strong. It protects itself. It knows what to do. It's remarkable.
Yeah,
and
retreated. I'm sorry, I was just saying it retreated to a spot where it knew.
Yeah, it's set up. It's a lava flow. It's an extinct volcano. It's so ancient. You know, that the big lava flow, the pyroclastic flow from it has these huge, it's not just little, not rocks like this. It's huge rocks the size of a house that it came out of this that you could still see in place. And then you could still see the other pyroclastic flow of rocks all around it in different sizes. Just a pretty amazing place to stand there.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Ask you, would you like to start with the I know I really want to talk about the plants that you know need to be planted to help prevent future fires in land that's been burned. I mean, you're an expert traditional botanist, and do you want to start with talking about post-fire or with the photographs you bought?
Oh, the photographs, yeah, because I just want to be able to show that I'm not just saying I'm Indian. I'm Native American or Maidu or Wintun. You know, I've had these pictures pretty much my whole life and was aware of them. I just didn't know what they were, you know, what it meant. I just was a kid. Go, that's your great grandfather. I'm like,
right.
Okay. Okay, that doesn't look the same as what I see in school, but I just didn't ask questions. I just made a note, okay, but I didn't bring it up also because I didn't see it as being normal looking around to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of kept quiet about it and eventually learned what happened to us with the gold rush because they're always so happy to talk about the gold rush. Yay. And it's like, wait a minute, now this is where things change. You know, so yeah, let's look at a photo.
Do you want to start with the family?
Yeah.
We have our wonderful Roxy back there. Oh, thank you, Roxy.
Thank you, Roxy. This is my great-grandfather in the middle. His name's George Nye. So he's my great-grandfather. And this is what you call the Hesse ceremony. So we would refer to the dancers on the outside as big head dancers. And the man in the middle, the shake head, is the lead dancer. It's a shake head dancer, and he'll dance point out where things go. He's got a quiver from a fox from California, gray fox, and arrows, and those are his dance pieces. And the other two are the big heads, and you got goose feathers. So what you're seeing is like a representation of what Sacramento Valley was tule, cottonwood, geese, the migratory birds, what was plentiful in our area. So it represents that to me. It reminds me.
And that's your that's your mother, the little one?
Yeah. And my grandfather, that was in the other picture, he's in the middle of this one.
Okay.
And yeah, and he's holding my mother's hand right there in that picture. And the two on the one on the standing next to my mother is a descendant of the other two, like related to the other two that were standing with him in the other picture. They were I think what they called themselves were like the fruit flies, because they would gather together and see each other again during the fruit season when they would be picking all the fruits in California. So I thought that was really cute.
That was cute.
Yeah.
Your mother and your grandmother who taught you about plant medicine and which plants?
Well, my mother died when I was 4 years old. So I really didn't have her around, and my great grandfather was already gone when I was born, but my grandmother was there. She was always in the background somewhere. She'd take me places. Like I said, she'd pull up. We lived together at times and lived apart at times, and she'd be on her way on the weekends to go travel up to the ranch and visit her husband and be able to be with him for a while. He's Hoopa and Yurok. And he came from that area to live with us, and he was happy living on flat land. And so he just cracked me up. He was like Fred Flintstone to me because he grumbled. He was so angry and just angry all the time. And, it was sad, but he thought it was humorous because that's what he reminded me of, Fred Flintstone walking around. Wah. But he also would sit down and carve. And what he was doing, and I didn't realize, I just watched him. So he was always carving. He whittled. He called it whittling. And he was making bark boats, like the hoopah, like his people.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd make them, and because he knew how to make them. And so that inspired me. Like, I would hope he'd give me one someday, and I'd just be waiting, and then it'd be gone. What happened to it? I gave it to somebody, and then I'd be like, okay, wait. He'd be carving another one. And so I was hoping I'd be there at the time it was done.
Mm-hmm. That was the key.
Yeah. So that's what I figured it was. I didn't get my feelings all hurt about it. I just, just like, oh, I got to go there every time because I need to be there at the end of that boat. But yeah, I never did get one, but it was an inspiration to me and think about those things. Yeah. I did eventually get to ride one with ancestors, with relatives, of the ancestors. Patrick's Point, they made a boat out there, and I was able to join them on a boat ride.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So my experience was met. I wanted that experience. But it all inspires me, because then it's like, what did we make boats out of in Central Valley? Tule. We made it out of tule. They used to call them balsa boats because probably the Westerners didn't know what they were. The archaeologists didn't know what they were. They just called them balsa boats. And I'm like, what is balsa? There's no balsa wood here. Why would they call them a balsa boat? And so I go, that's tule boat. And they go, oh yeah, the balsa boat. And I go, no, tule boat. It was kind of like, as a young kid, I had this discussion a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I ended up being a boat maker and working with the Water is Life program, and with Melissa Nelson, Professor Nelson in San Francisco University, and Kathy Wallace, a dear friend from Hoopa relatives too. And we did a whole Water is Life program.
Wonderful.
So I went from water. Huh?
Water is Life.
Yeah.
What a great name.
Yeah, we were talking about clean water. And so I came in with Tule, talking about how Tule cleans water. It filters the water before it leaves this valley, because all the water comes off of the high mountains and spills into the valley, fills it up, and then collects at the delta, and then goes out to the ocean through that door of San Francisco. Goes out to the ocean clean. It doesn't go out dirty like the way Westernized people do it now. It went out clean. Went through all the Tule. The Tule would keep all the garbage back. It would hold it back. Didn't even matter if it was piece of plastic or anything. But by removing the Tule, you just opened up that whole world of garbage to the ocean. Yeah, so it's that's something wonderful. Water is Life is what I spread and talked about when I was there.
Fantastic. And when did mugwort start playing a big role in your life? The mugwort plant. And can we show the picture now, Roxy?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for mugwort. Mugwort is like one of those medicinal plants. It has everything you need. If you have itches or little bites from mosquitoes, you can chew on it. It needs to have the enzymes of your mouth. Chew on it and then put it on the bite, and it'll stop itching. It smells great. It reminds the bear that we're relatives, because we didn't believe we were relative to gorillas. We believe we were relatives to bears. And so and I still believe that. And then that wormwood is what's referred to as also mugwort. It has that smell that is very good for you. You could put it in your nose, you could wear it on your hair, put it under your pillow, and it keeps nightmares away. It is such a important piece of life, and and then it smells good. It just is a great plant. It's like Vicks mentholatum.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so just to kind of like let people understand what I'm, trying to show is the smell of it. So it cleared out your sinuses, and to this day, if somebody's nose is running, I'll say put some mugwort in your nose. You got a cup in the middle of the tip, your nose. You got a little cup there. Roll it up, stick it in your nose, and breathe it, and it'll dry up your sinuses, and you won't have any wetness at all. It'll dry it, but get it out of there because you don't want to dry it off permanently afterwards. So it's important. And so I had a big role. I had asthma. I had a lot of those kind of problems, breathing problems. So it really helped me. I stuck with mugwort, and it also was an important piece because, as much as I learned by it, you go outside, you could take it and roll it in your hands and rub it on your skin. You just roll it and rub it, and it gets rid of your human scent. So you could take a walk, and then actually get closer to animals. So it's good for a hunter. I mean, if you were a hunter, you would be doing that, wearing that on you and rubbing it all over you, and so
because it hides the human scent.
Yeah, it's strong enough to do that. And it's plentiful enough that if an animal smelt it, they'd be like, that's mugwort. I don't have to worry about anything, it's just mugwort over there.
Yeah.
Wind. Yeah.
And you have a photograph of people helping with a fire. Is that a cultural fire situation? Or
Yes.
Can you explain
this? Because I have a place that I like to enjoy. It's called the Tending and Gathering Garden.
Yeah.
Something that was created at the Cache Creek Conservancy almost 20 years ago. And so we grew lots and brought in through the direction of the local native wise master weaver, Bertha Mitchell. We chose 15 plants, basketry plants that were important to her to grow there. And what we're burning there is deer grass.
Mm.
And deer grass is pretty tall. If you look to the right of me, there's a pretty tall bunch of deer grass growing there. But if you look directly in front of me, in front of the girl in there's one that's been burnt down. And that whole patch was huge.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And they were all about the same height. So we just burned them all down and they grew back really fast. We were just out there and they're so pretty. This right here is like all the little poof balls
Mm-hmm.
of deer grass. And it was really fun. I was really enjoying that. Just taking some of the fire out, burns loosely on the grass and moving it and raking it to the next bunch, and it was just really a fun day. And the smoke, like right now, I have problems with skin right now because of my, not sure exactly what it is, but I'll get blisters and something I have to put my mugwort on it. And then if I'm out there in that, I feel like I'm in a smudge bowl, like a smudge abalone shell, just walking around, getting that smoke on me. And it's very healing.
Mm.
Yeah. And so that's those are the things I'm talking about. I bring that up because I'm trying to express the feelings of this. It's not always about coming up to me and asking questions like, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's like, quit giving me so much power. You're right at me. I'd rather not. It's more or less experiences. You have to have the experiences or the feelings. You have to watch. And that's how we learned. We didn't go up and get into our elders' faces. How you do this? How you do that? We didn't do that. We watched. You watch and you can pick up everything from them. And then if they see you watching, then they're like, why don't you come here? I got to show you something. And that's pretty much, I knew that's how you had to do it. So my grandma gave me that opportunity to learn that way from elders as well as her. She would guide me in that direction, so it was really, so I was pretty prepared to meet people like Bertha Mitchell that had the knowledge of the Wintun culture, and of that area and what plants she needed. So it was very valuable to have her there. And she was a language speaker. It was her first language was Wintun, not English.
Mm.
So she craved it, and she would go and sit out there with my cousin Pam Gonzalez and just sit with her and go over the language. Like that tree, talk, kir, sky, kir, soil, just kind of explain to her all these things because she was within it. She was in it. That's where her language is. It's not in the house. It's not in the classroom. It's in nature. So this whole thing became a catalyst, of everything that I do is being in nature, not talking about it, just doing it.
You're being very generous coming on my show and being willing to talk about it. I appreciate you're tolerating.
Well, this. I'm not downing this
Yeah.
lifestyle. I was born and raised this way. I mean, I'm in a house. I'm glad that I'm in a room in a house, and I can enjoy a show. I can enjoy guitar. I can things like that. Music, radio. I can play and listen to what I want. Even this kind of thing, computer. It's. I'm very happy where I'm at. I just know that I am Native a person, and I don't have a recognition of being Native. The government won't give that to me. I'm Wintun, but I'm not with the tribe. I'm not a recognized Native American. I'm just another Native American. I'm the other, and then tribes that own things like the Thunder Valley tribe or, Red Hawk tribe, Cache Creek Casino tribe. They're all Native people who are recognized by the government of being their type of tribe. And so they had the ability to have land to build a casino on and make money in that way, that traditional way. And, and gambling is traditional. That's how we traded things. We would sit across from each other and challenge each other with songs. And whoever won got to take what was in the middle. And so that's how we exchanged product is through gambling games or grass games. And so it's really fun. I just remember being a kid and going underneath tables and watching them, because we're not supposed to be up. We're supposed to be asleep. But we'd be, crawling under the elders' chairs and watching them gamble and watching them laugh and, and all the different things they do. It was really fun. Just really, I haven't seen that in my adult life. It's been sad. I guess I did see it a couple times. That was really trying to make it happen. Telling kids, if you go sneak at night, they won't get mad at you. That's what we used to do when we were kids.
I think that happens in every culture, don't you think?
Yeah.
We try to see what we could get away with.
Yeah. And it sounds fun. You hear them singing and laughing.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah. Fun. So I guess I really need to get to a fire. I would like to really talk about that, because what happened in California and Oregon and Washington was all because of not the government taking the right for us to burn California, our traditional way of taking care of the land, and taking away our rights to gather. So if we can't gather, then there's a lot of extra material there that can catch on fire if the amount of it builds up. And that's what happened. And it wasn't just that. It was invasive plants that grew from where people brought it from their country. They brought all these invasive plants, and then they escaped, especially if they're Mediterranean plants that could live here. So you have ivies, and bamboo was a horrible one, and tamarisk is another one that crowd rivers, suck up all the water, and just move to the center of the river instead of staying on the outside. They just want to get in the center of the river and suck up all the water. And then what they do is they create a big block in the middle of the river, and then all the river water spreads out, and it isn't contained. So it causes big problems. So removing that was what Cache Creek did, and interested me when I first worked there. Was this idea of getting rid of arundo and the bamboo and tamarisk, and they called it salt cedar too, the folk name. So they would get rid of it and experiment in different ways. Now they got a foolproof way of doing it. It took a while. Just like the foolproof way of getting rid of star thistle is burning it 3 years in a row. It'll kill it. And Patch, the tending and gathering garden, was built in a aggregate mining pit that was void of life, because they just went into the pit to get all the rock, but it just was an empty mud bowl with dirt because once the mine is deep as deep as the water aquifer, then all the water just goes into that pit and goes to the side. So it gets dislocated. It's like a dislocated river, you know. But on this one at the Cache Creek, they brought more dirt in and replaced a lot of the land over the rock, and we were able to grow the tending and gathering garden there, you know. And I'm saying we as a people, as a group, us working together, me tending them. I was hired to tend them, and that's one thing I do want to say is that I'm a Native person that has made a living out of my culture and teaching it. And so I was hired to tend the plants there. And that was a wonderful experience to be able to do that, is to interact with these plants for, gosh, over a year. It did get very hard for me to do eventually because a lot of bending, a lot of, you know, being out in the sun. And so it didn't have an effect on me. So, and I didn't know how to handle it right away. I didn't do the right things. Right now, if I'm in the sun and I know it's sunny and I need protection, I'll grab the mud up and put the mud on my face and everywhere. That's sunblock, you know? So it's kind of, if I did something like that, I'm not sure how fast they would have fired me saying I was crazy.
Sadly true, right?
Yeah.
But how wonderful that you reclaimed it. Like, I'm going to block the sun from my face and there's some mud and this is
it's easy. And I, like I said, there's been a good experience. I went on a Wintun camping weekend with a bunch of Wintun people learning culture, and they invited me to come and teach. And that was one thing I was able to teach. And that Coyote Pond that they had there, it's called Coyote Pond, was swim with them. And they were going, oh, it's getting hot. And I go, oh, all we need is mud. Drive, you know, swim to the edge and get the mud and putting it on my face. And the kids copied me, and they learned that. That's sunblock.
And no chemicals, no plastic, no going to a store to buy stuff. It's like,
or worried about the mud. You know, dirt don't hurt. I always say dirt don't hurt. That's good for your skin. You know, so that's what it got to experience, just swimming with a bunch of Wintun descendants and, you know, with mud on us and not getting burned.
Fantastic.
So being able to teach things like that just by experience is what I've always enjoyed. And so again, going back to me being not a tribal member, I'm what you call I'm an extinct Indian, you know, because I can't be in a tribe. None of the tribes will accept me. They'll say, oh, you don't belong here. You belong over there. Or you don't belong with this tribe. You're not a part of this tribe. You know, so I can't be a part of any of the tribes that I mentioned because they won't accept me.
Just because of the legality of the U.S.
Because they don't have to.
The legal status piece.
Yeah, because they don't have to, really. They can decide what year the land was made into a rancheria and who lived there and who was written to be on that land. You know, then that could be all they need to be accountable for. And with my grandma and my grandpa who traveled, we was all over, and he was afraid of her being taken away with boarding schools, and so he moved her around a lot. And quite frankly, he didn't trust many people because of what they do to kids.
Yeah,
you know, so he moved her from farm to farm, but you know, he had to come and get her and move her again.
Saved her.
Yeah, it was hard, but you know, my grandmother came away with a beautiful view of life for me. You know, she didn't have any anger, but I don't blame a Native person who had anger, you know, trouble dealing with things. I don't blame them for that, you know, because I know they did. And if they were raised by a person who was like that, I know they did, you know, and all you could do is just be sympathetic and, you know, try to represent, you know, so teaching the things that made us happy Native people, you know. But again, I don't want people to forget what happened to us. It was, you know, it was very hurtful. To do that to us made us not trust anybody.
Yeah,
you can't trust.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to reinforce the generational trauma.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's there. And it's something I live with, and I understood. Thank God I understood. I didn't hold it for granted on any Native person. If a Native person was being, well, I don't know if I could trust you with this, saying something like that. Or, I don't know if I want to teach you that. That's too much, then I would back off and okay, I understand. It's not hurting, me. I'm just going to go do something else. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I would reach them. Eventually they'd call me over. So I never regretted anything or mad at them for doing that. I know generational trauma was there.
I think I know just from previous conversations, I think your grandmother's positive way of framing things definitely rubbed off on you. Just looking for what to do, what you can do, and doing it and enjoying it, and you loving what you're doing. I want to ask you, can I go back to one thing? And I also want
the plant.
Well, actually, you talked about reasons for the serious burnings were practices taken away from Indigenous people who had Indigenous practices that had a symbiotic relationship with nature, including gathering and cultural burning, which aware of what to burn and when and how often to burn it. And that's a huge explanation for like out of control part of climate change, part of the culmination towards the climate changing we're seeing. Is there a concerted effort now, because what to plant and people have some collective knowledge of what to plant post fire? I'm not asking you to have to to try to educate us all about that, but is there a way that people could help? Do you want people like who don't have the knowledge but could come do the labor? Like, is there a way, if you're doing some post-fire plantings, is there a way to
there's a way not to do it. Okay. It's like all these people with this urge of, oh, we need to replace the trees now. We need to replace trees. What are they going to do? They need to stick with native plants, native trees. Don't take advantage of the situation and start growing a bunch of marijuana. We're not talking about just oxygen. We're talking about the whole earth as a whole. It needs to have the pine trees. It needs to have the food for the animals that were there. The buckeyes, the walnuts, black walnuts. We need to return native vegetation. And believe me, a lot of the plants that got burned, they needed it. And hopefully they have the energy to come back. They can grow back. But there are some that won't be able to. So you remove those, but replace them with the same. You know what I mean? Replace the forest with the same types of trees. And but don't allow invasives. That really caused a big detriment to everything, because once things grow in and die, if invasive comes over and grows over it, covers it, because it can take the sun, it could take the good weather. As soon as the sun hit, it dies on it, and then that tree is still, those native plants are still struggling to come up through that.
Okay, so the key is native plants. That's the key. And I know we just have a couple minutes left, so I wanted to see if you can talk about the last photo. There's one more photo of milkweed and butterfly, and then whatever. And I love. Thank you so much, Roxy's showing that people can check out Keepers of the Flame class at UC Davis. Study they want to, which you'll be teaching, and that's one way also they can find you if they're a student at UCD interested in this class.
And other Native people who do these things. Fantastic. It's a connection to that. And when it comes to this picture, this is on my balcony here in Sacramento, California, and I wanted you to see that it's not just there's this push to native plants for butterflies, and not so much native, but they're pulling in any pollination of a plant, pollinator thing for monarchs. But they need to have their native plants too, that trail to bring them here in the right direction. So that plant was not milkweed. That plant was California aster.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was California aster. And I'm saying that not just because you said the wrong one. It's, to educate people that it's not just milkweed that brings them. It's a light, and you got to think of it like a salmon going up the river. It follows the scent of the plants that it was around, and then it goes back. When it comes back upstream, it'll follow that scent to the riverside where it was born, where the egg was laid. They follow that scent from their memory banks back. So it's almost like the butterfly's doing that. He's following the scent of all these flowers leading to a place where it lived and died on the way. It lived and died like 4 times on the way before it gets to the south. It's pretty amazing. And
that is amazing. And to be in tune to that, I mean, to just think of that analogy of the salmon, following the scent, and the butterfly song, it's just a whole other sensory way of being. And so appreciate you bringing that to life for me so much more. We just have like 1 minute left. Do you have one last thought you have before I'm sorry?
Yeah, just plant mugwort. You got to get mugwort out there too. It's good for everybody. You have to have that. And it's also good for birds. Native birds love to eat mugwort, the seeds from it. So it's really important. And we need to have this one. I have it on my balcony. All the birds gather up around it. So yeah.
Wow.
It's really neat.
Mugwort, plant native indigenous plants. Learn more. Check out Keepers of the Flame and the Cache Creek Conservancy in Woodland, right? The Tending and Gathering Garden.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing for all of our students and for all of us. And I so appreciate your time and for coming back on the show. And
okay.
I'm grateful to be in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you. And your daughter for helping. I like her questions, the class.
Oh, she loves it. And I want to also thank Roxy, our sound engineer, and our producer, Dean. And thank everyone who's listening or watching. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern at w4cy.com to listen live, or come watch the Talk 4 Media TV and get the camera.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech.